Hello guys! Welcome back to my channel. Surprise! I am pregnant, as you already know by clicking on this video and seeing the title. I wanted to do a little first trimester recap because I am now in my second trimester. This is my first pregnancy, first baby. Very excited. And I also asked you guys over on my Instagram if you had any questions at all about pregnancy in general or my first trimester or anything like that. So we'll answer some of those questions. But I have a little outline so I don't forget anything I wanted to cover, because as this is my first pregnancy, there were several things that caught me by surprise about the first trimester, specifically how hard it can be. And man, I do want to share my experience, because maybe it's just because I haven't ever really been directly in this world because I haven't been pregnant, but I feel like not a lot of women seem to talk about how hard the first trimester is specifically. So let's get into it. Also, I will say right off the bat, I don't think mine was even as hard as a lot of women have it, and it was still hard for me. So, and of course, none of this is medical advice. Okay, I'm just sharing my experience. First off, how I found out. So I actually have posted this video on my YouTube shorts and over on my Instagram and TikTok, the video of the moment I found out. But I had gotten back from our first trip to Europe with my husband. My period was due end of that week that we got back. I took a test right before my period was due. It was negative. A couple days go by. Now it's like maybe 2 days past my period's due and I still haven't started. So I take another test. They were like the cheap tests on Amazon, and this one had the faintest line, which is so funny because looking back at the footage now, it looks like it's nothing, but at the time I immediately noticed that it looked like it was a really, really faint line. So that prompted me to go buy a higher quality test. So I went and bought a first response, like 6 days sooner test. So if you want to see my reaction, you can go check out my YouTube shorts or TikTok or Instagram. It's over there, which is kind of fun to have that documented. I pretty much throughout all the years have always filmed myself when I take pregnancy tests just in case. Anyway, as far as telling people in my life that I'm pregnant, I of course told my husband first. So I actually filmed all that. That video will be coming next, so stay tuned. And then I filmed majority of telling family and friends. There's a few I didn't film. As I started to not feel so good, I had less motivation to film. I just started telling people, so it's still fun. We have some documented, but some are not. Okay, my early symptoms. I actually did not have symptoms until I was about, I want to say 4 to 5 weeks in. When I tested, the only symptoms I had was while in Europe. I remember we were on this train ride where the AC was out and there was a lot of people on the train, and I got quite nauseous, but I kind of thought like, oh, maybe that's just because it's hot and crowded. So that was a little weird. And then I also got a UTI on our last day on our trip in Europe, which, come to find out, they're more common when you're pregnant. That was kind of a sign, I guess. But other than that, the big symptoms didn't start for a while. I was actually feeling pretty good. I thought that maybe I would be one of those women who had an amazing, easy time. And then I just woke up one day, like 4 or 5 weeks in, and just felt like crap. So the main symptoms I had, I actually haven't thrown up really at all. I've come close a couple times, but I have been nauseous for sure. I've had food aversions. My biggest aversion has been to coffee. I'm a coffee lover. And I woke up one morning and it just sounded like the most disgusting thing on the planet. And now that I'm in my second trimester, it doesn't sound as gross to me, but I still don't want it. So I haven't really had any coffee, but I am now drinking caffeinated greens. So those have been a lifesaver on some days. The fatigue is so intense. Oh my God. And from what I've read, 90% of women don't have a great time in their first trimester. They get really tired and nauseous and stuff. So the fatigue is insane. You could, like, you take the longest naps, like 3-hour naps, and you just feel, I'm curious how many of you have felt that way too, because I obviously, again, I think it's pretty common, but wow. Which makes sense. People kept reminding me, your body's literally building like the foundations of a human. That's why the first trimester is so intense, because your body's like building the placenta, building the baby's organs, like all the foundation. And then cravings, someone did ask this too on my Q&A on my Instagram. Cravings, I had a little bit. I ate, if you're from Utah, you know this place, I ate Costa Vida every day for like a couple of weeks. I don't know what it was, but more so than cravings, what it felt like in the first trimester was like you would think of a food and it was the only thing that didn't sound disgusting, so you'd have to go eat that immediately. And then even then, sometimes like I'd get Costa Vida, I'd be eating it and I'd be like 2 bites in and I'd be like, do I even like this? Am I gonna throw up? And like one time I had to lay completely horizontally while I ate my lunch. But also if you don't eat, you guys will know this if you've been pregnant, if you don't eat, your nausea and sickness gets worse. So you have to eat. Oh, I'm so glad to be out of this. It was rough. And then the other thing, food aversions, cravings, was for a long time, it was hard to eat home cooked meals. So I ate out every day for like 8 weeks at least. And that's insane. And also expensive, but I was just trying to get through. The things that helped me cope most, taking naps. I did take Unisom several nights because it would just help you sleep and you just feel like trash. And then also it helps with nausea a little bit. I took vitamin B6, which seemed to help a little bit. I had some smelling sticks. Let's see, I have one right here. Like this little sniff stick to try and help with nausea. Eating consistently, like not being on an empty stomach, because you're usually quite nauseous first thing in the morning. And then just literally dialing down all my responsibilities, which that is very privileged of me. I know that I'm able to do that. But I was thinking of all the women out there that work, you know, a traditional job, work for somebody else and can't dial their job back or can't take as much time off. My heart goes out to them. Or the women who have to take care of toddlers while they're in the first trimester. I don't know how y'all did it, how y'all do it. I was thinking of you because, man, I was able to pretty much just slow down on work. I pretty much abandoned social media for a couple months and I just watched Gilmore Girls, slept, laid in my bed. I do want to touch on the emotional, mental side of things. I did definitely have some mood changes. The first few weeks were the hardest, where I was feeling after I hit that 4 or 5 week point, those next couple weeks were the hardest. It was really hard not to be able to be productive because this is not good, but I do kind of like have a little bit of my self-worth ties to how productive I am. So that was actually quite hard for me mentally to have to back off of like work, have to back off of social media and any like goals I had, having to back off of workouts and things. Once I kind of accepted things for what they were and just leaned into the experience of this is what I'm going through right now, it got a lot better. Definitely excited, but also at this stage, it didn't feel real. Like even sometimes now it doesn't feel real. So that was interesting. And then definitely just the natural fears that come with being pregnant and like wanting everything to go well and be okay and that sort of stuff, and wondering if your symptoms are normal. How did I balance sharing and keeping it private early on? So I actually ended up telling all my close friends and family pretty early, because in my mind, if something were to happen or go wrong, those are the people you'd want in your corner anyway and like to be supportive and know what's going on. So I told friends and family, like I told my parents at like the 4 or 5 week point, like pretty much right after I found out. Same thing with other family and friends. Are just like, as I was seeing them, I would trickle it out and tell them. But I had no energy and drive to be posting on social media anyway, so then it wasn't as hard to like keep it a secret. I had some old content I had filmed like either in the first couple weeks where I still felt good or like right before getting pregnant, so I kind of trickled that out. But other than that, I just like social media wise, I just dropped off the face of the planet. Now we'll get into the doctor's appointment. So my first ultrasound and seeing and hearing the heartbeat. So Dallin, my husband, and I went to the appointment together. So I'll put that footage in now. It's so surreal to hear the heartbeat for the first time. And I was measuring earlier than they would have anticipated based off of like how they typically determine your due date. So at my first appointment, I was only 7 weeks. But I'll put that footage in now. Dallin's so sweet. He literally cries at every appointment. It's the best. He's so sweet.
That little mass.
That little mass. That little bean in there. That is so crazy. Was that it? That was it. That is so weird. It's like magic. Okay. Oh, and then I got my blood work done, of course. Everything came back good. I do have a history of Hashimoto's and low thyroid, so that was like my biggest priority to check, which my thyroid was overworking. So I've changed my dose, have to up my dose on that, and I'm trying to prioritize de-stressing as much as possible, still eating gluten-free and like lowering my body's inflammation. De-stressing has been proving to be difficult to reduce. It's like everything's happening all at once in my personal life. I just feel like the universe is really showing me some things and where to set boundaries and what to prioritize. Any surprises or things I wish I'd known? My doctor's office forgot to do a second component of genetic testing. So if you are into that sort of thing, just know there's like 2 things. There's like the NIPT test that checks babies' chromosomes and their gender. and then the carrier screen that checks like your genetics to see if you're a carrier for certain conditions. I think conditions like spina bifida and different things like that. So they only checked me for the carrier screen, and I had to go back and ask to check for the other one, which in my original appointment we discussed checking it. So it was very confusing. I think someone just dropped the ball, but just I wish I would have known that ahead of time, because then I would have known immediately that only one of them came back and not the other one, and we could have gotten on it quicker. I'm also quickly realizing that you have to be an advocate for yourself a lot of the time. So even if you've discussed something, you need to follow up and double check that it was ordered, things like that. So that's unfortunate, but just part of the case. Sorry about the lighting in here, it's kind of dark. Biggest challenges, definitely being so exhausted and having nausea. There has been also anxiety, which I can tell is hormonal. Obviously there's anxiety too, just you're entering a new life phase, it's a lot, you're anticipating being a mom, but I felt like I had hormonal anxiety. Like there was a couple nights I'd wake up and just like feel like I was on the verge of a panic attack, and I had nothing in my mind that I could be panicking about. So that's been a little bit rough, but I am feeling better now. And I would say I started feeling better about the 13-week mark. Not 100%, I still have some rough days, but it's been getting better. I do get tension headaches, which are not fun, and I've had more migraines than I typically do. I'm someone who gets migraines anyway, but I've been having a little bit more than usual, but luckily they're not quite as intense as they are when I'm not pregnant. Okay, and highlights, let's get to that. So favorite or most special moments, definitely telling Dallin I was pregnant, and then telling lots of friends and family. It's just like great to get that reaction. Also, Dallin and I have been married, it'll be 9 years this coming year, so I think people almost weren't expecting it because we've waited so long. Maybe they thought it would never happen, or they thought that we were joking when we told them. So I do think reactions were like priceless. It was great. So that was definitely a highlight. Finding out I'm pregnant by myself and it just being me and my baby, you know, that was really sweet. Yeah, it was sort of a surprise. That's another question, is was it planned or was it a surprise? Essentially, kind of both, because we just weren't actively trying, we just stopped preventing. Something that's made me feel connected to the baby, because it is, I thought I felt connected faster, but I think it just feels like it doesn't feel real in the beginning. And then the more symptoms you have, it starts to feel a little more real. Every appointment you have, hearing the baby's heartbeat, finding out the gender, we do know gender, which I'll be posting that later. Each step has kind of made it feel more real and make you feel more connected. And I think I'm starting to feel the baby move. It's very slight, very subtle, not super often quite yet. So that's been cool, but it's like it's easy to gaslight myself because it'll be so like faint and subtle that I'll be like, oh, is that just like digestion, or is that like, but it's quite low. So I think I'm feeling it move. So that's been fun. Someone asked number one craving. Number one craving has been Costa Vida and then anything like salty. But that's kind of what I crave already. Weird food aversions though, the coffee thing. Salt and vinegar chips, usually one of my faves, and I had them early on one day in pregnancy, and then all of a sudden I couldn't eat them anymore. So that's been kind of interesting. And then a weird craving too is, I mean, I've been craving sushi, but I love sushi. I'm a sushi lover, which you can't really have in pregnancy, at least the raw stuff. So that's kind of been a bummer, but I've just been having cooked sushi. And then I've also been craving like deli sandwiches, which I normally never crave that. And that's another thing you're not really supposed to have when you're pregnant. So that's been also annoying. I know you can get the meat heated. I haven't done that yet, but I probably will. But I think because it's my first baby, I'm like extra cautious and I just want to be really careful. Someone asked about names. We're not going to share our top names, of course, not even for gatekeeping reasons, but for not getting people's opinions. And I've heard this from multiple women, like, don't share your names because people give their opinions and it's just like, we don't need that. Negative opinions specifically, and you can't control what kind of opinion they're going to give you. But I do plan on doing a names we love but won't be using video, so that'll be fun. Stay tuned. Someone asked how my thyroid's doing. It's doing okay. I've already had to up my dose of my medication. We tested again just the other day, and I'm waiting to hear back from the doctor if she wants to up it again. It looks like my range is normal, but I don't know if they'll want to up it again to make it more optimal. So it's doing okay. The first trimester was really hard to be gluten-free in because I was just eating what I could, and I was also like slightly eating for joy because I was mentally struggling a lot. But now that I'm in the second trimester, I'm trying to be a lot more strict about being gluten-free. So hopefully that's helping my thyroid. Hopefully we can keep our inflammation down. Someone wants to know how I told Dallin. Again, stay tuned. That'll be a fun video, and that's coming next. Someone's asking how I'm feeling. Definitely better now. I still have some rough days. Like I'll have random waves of nausea, still a little tired, but oh my God, it's so much better than it was in the first trimester. And then I had a lot of people ask how far along I am. So I am 17 weeks as I'm filming this video. I started to feel better around 13, but there was still some ups and downs. But man, it's been so much better since I kind of entered into a few weeks into the second trimester. Someone wants to know if we're gonna get pregnancy fitness content. Yes, you will. I'm actually so excited about this. I'm gonna be posting workouts, definitely core stuff, because it's a priority in pregnancy to keep your deep core strong to prevent like diastasis recti, which is like where your ab muscles separate and then you kind of get that like coning and that just separation of like that six-pack muscle. So I'll be posting a lot about core stuff. And then I'm just gonna announce it now because I'm gonna do it. I am going to be writing a pregnancy program. I'm already certified by a couple certifications in pre and postnatal training, but I wanted to get another one and just get really into it, especially now that I'm pregnant myself. So I've started another one, a course, and then I'm just going to be able to, you know, use myself as my guinea pig for this program, and then I'll hopefully be able to launch it right around birth time. For all of you soon-to-be moms, and if you're planning to get pregnant in the next year, this will be great timing. So I'm very excited to dive into more pregnancy content. Okay, someone asked, were you able to work out during the first trimester? If so, how did you find the motivation with the first trimester fatigue? I was able to work out those first couple weeks after I found out I was pregnant. So when I was probably like 3 to 4 weeks pregnant, I stuck with my normal workouts. I was doing the Muscle Mommy Talk. That was my plan coming home from Europe, was to start that program. So I was working out my 3 days per week. Everything was going normally. I was kind of feeling like everything would keep going normally. And then that random day I woke up and just felt like crap. Since that day, it was impossible to get myself to go to the gym. Literally, just being 100% honest, I felt like shit. Okay, majority of the time. There was about an 8-week period, I think, where it was hard to even go on a walk with my dog. So there was several days that I did not get movement in at all. And that's what's been very eye-opening for me, because obviously I've never gone through this myself firsthand. I know there's probably a certain amount of women, a handful of women, that don't get quite as sick and they're able to keep up their gym routine. But from what I've researched, majority of women are not able to keep up their normal routine, which is kind of to be expected. Your body is going through so much. Like, think about how much your body goes through in our period. This is even more. Your body is building a whole human, the foundations of them. So I mentally let go of the gym. I thought, you know what, I'll go back when I can. So there was about an 8-week period where I didn't work out at all, barely went on walks. But now that I'm feeling better, once I start feeling better, like again, that like 12, 13 weeks, I would try to go. So I think in the first trimester, combining the very first few weeks with the last few weeks, I went maybe 5 times total. And if I did go, I would just keep it really light, not lift as heavy, listen to my body, not do it quite as long. But now that I'm in the second trimester, I'm back to going to the gym at least 2 to 3 days a week. Again, I still have some weeks that are a little harder than others. So I'm just approaching it gently, but trying to stay consistent. I've definitely gotten better at my walks. I go on a walk about every day, I would say, as long as I don't have like something weird going on, like a migraine or something. Originally, I was like, again, gaslighting myself, like, am I just being lazy, not going on this? But no, it was not a motivation factor. Genuinely felt like shit, which I always tell my clients, don't work out if you're sick. And being in the first trimester, you feel sick, or at least a lot of us do. I did. I felt so sick. There was no way I was gonna be able to go to the gym. And I've heard other women say too, like when they did push themselves, they felt worse after. So on the days where I would try to push myself, it was literally pushing myself to go on a short walk, and that was it. Do not beat yourself up if you're in that boat in the first trimester. You can get back to your workouts when you're feeling better. Take care of your body. Working out isn't always the way to take care of your body. Sometimes the way to take care of your body is to rest, nap, eat some food. It's a dial. We gotta approach it with care, like you care about yourself and your body. Making yourself feel bad for not working out in the first trimester only makes things harder, because you're being mean to yourself mentally, and that doesn't make you feel good either. Okay, and then our last question is, are you still taking supplements? I stopped taking everything when I was pregnant, but we want a baby number 2 soon, and I want to do more research. I'm sure there are pregnancy-safe protein powders, creatine, BCAAs. So I actually stopped pretty much all my supplements straight away. Got a prenatal vitamin and an omega, okay? Which I normally take omega-3s, like fish oil. So those are the 2. A good prenatal and an omega. I, of course, checked these with my doctor when I went in. And then I also got a probiotic to keep my gut healthy, happy. That was my trifecta. My prenatal, omega-3s, fish oil, and a probiotic. I've since added magnesium because it's supposed to help your digestion. That's another thing I forgot to touch on. My digestion since that 5th week mark has been horrible, and it hasn't gotten much better. I have a lot of heartburn. Sometimes food just feels like it's sitting in my stomach. It's not been fun. Bloating beyond, which makes my stomach look bigger than it is. bigger than the baby is making it look. So I haven't been doing any other supplements. I still have protein powder here and there, but I've been mostly kind of eating whole foods just because that's kind of what I've been leaning towards. There are definitely protein powders that are pregnancy safe, but of course, check everything with your doctor. The protein powder I use right now is Just Ingredients. I like the vanilla flavor, so, and their ingredients seem to be clean. So if you're concerned, just always, of course, check things with your doctor. Being a first-time mom, I'm more on the cautious end, so I stopped most of my supplements and then just rebuilt them on the ones that were really good for pregnancy. Creatine, I looked this up and it says there's just limited research on it, so I'm just not taking it right now. We can get back to it later. I would rather just be safe. And then same thing with caffeine. I'm not drinking any energy drinks. I would have coffee, but it's grossing me out, so I'm doing the caffeinated greens, which I also checked with my doctor, the ingredients in that, to make sure it was okay. So I would just keep it to a minimum and double check with your doctor. There you go. Okay guys, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all of you who've been following along, whether you're new or you've been here for years. I can also touch on any more questions you guys might have. If you've been here since I talked about my Daisy device that I used to use for pregnancy prevention, I'm happy to answer questions about that, because something I do want to point out is that I was on natural form of pregnancy prevention. I stopped birth control in 2017. And obviously it's been effective because I did not get pregnant until I wanted to be pregnant. So how many years is that? 17 to 25? 8. So I was birth control free for 8 years. I've made multiple videos on this method I use, so you can check those out if you want. I'm happy to answer any more questions. It's not the right method for everybody, but it was amazing for me. And I'm so grateful for it. And I'm also so grateful that I knew my body well, because even though we weren't actively trying to get pregnant, I knew when I was more fertile, I knew when I wasn't, I knew when to expect my period, so I knew when it would be late, and that's kind of a game changer, and I'm really glad I set myself up for success with body literacy and all that. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I'm excited for all the videos to come in this new chapter of life. Of course, I still plan on making all my normal content as well, things around books, health and fitness, workouts, nutrition, lifestyle, so don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys!